I'm Helena Humphrey in Washington, D.C., and this is BBC World News America. The Group of Seven prepares to get down to business in Japan. Leaders will be discussing the Ukraine war, China's global influence, and plenty more. The House of Mouse pulls a plan to build a new home. How Disney's scrapping of a new campus in Florida relates to its ongoing feud with the state's governor. Plus, we hear from Johnny Depp on his latest film, his reception at the Cannes Film Festival, and why he's not calling this a comeback.
Comeback is a weird thing because
he never left.
No, I didn't go anywhere, you know what I mean?
Welcome to World News America on PBS and around the globe. The leaders of the G7 countries are meeting in a city with historical significance to address matters of global importance. They've convened in the Japanese city of Hiroshima to address what they see as the top threats to the world and what can be done about them. Well, it's likely that Russia's war with Ukraine will top the agenda after a recent series of aerial attacks on Kyiv and amid talk of a long-awaited spring offensive by Ukraine. Also of importance is China and trade. The leaders will propose ways to reduce economic dependence on China by cooperating with other countries. And they'll discuss Taiwan and the economic and military pressure coming from Beijing. Well, the BBC's Nick Marsh is in Hiroshima for us. We can bring him in now. Good to see you, Nick. Many topics on the agenda, but we do expect that the war in Ukraine will probably dominate. What are the expectations with regards to that topic? Nick Marsh in Hiroshima covering the G7 summit in Japan for us. Nick, good to talk to you. Thank you. Now, Disney is cancelling an $860 million project it had planned to build in Florida, and in a statement, the company cited new leadership and changing business conditions as reasons for the cancellation. It comes amid an increasingly bitter battle with the state's Republican governor. Ron DeSantis was quick to put a statement out of his own, saying that given the company's financial straits, falling market cap and declining stock price, it is unsurprising that they would restructure their business operations and cancel unsuccessful ventures. The DeSantis-Disney feud is a drama with many twists and turns. I wish I could say it's fun for all ages, but fortunately we do have the BBC's Anthony Zerka standing by in Celebration, Florida, which itself was originally built by the Walt Disney Company in the shadow of its famous theme park. Anthony, great to have you with us. Now, Disney says for its part that it's scrapped its plans amid, quote, changing business conditions. Are those quote unquote conditions linked to this feud with the Florida governor? It will indeed, and we know that you will be monitoring it all. The BBC's Anthony Zerka there in Florida. Anthony, good to talk to you. Well, to southern Kenya now, where 226 bodies have been exhumed in the so-called Shakahola forest massacre, most of them women and children. Now, the victims were members of a religious starvation cult under the leader Paul Mackenzie, who is under investigation. Now, the area is in the coastal town of Malindi, from where Barbara Plutt-Usher now reports. Now, for more than a year, El Salvador has been living under an emergency measure called a state of exception, in which several constitutional rights were suspended and a national crackdown on the country's powerful street gangs. Now, the police have been granted wide-ranging powers of detention, and a staggering 66,000 people have been arrested. But while the crackdown has seen El Salvador's murder rate plummet, human rights organisations say that thousands of people with no link to the gangs have been detained unjustly, and their relatives are demanding their immediate release. Well, covering this story for us is our correspondent Will Grant, and we can speak to him now. Will, good to see you. What more have you been learning? All right, Will Grant there. Thanks for your reporting. As ever, good to talk to you. Well, in other news, at least 3 journalists have been injured after Israeli nationalists attacked members of the media covering a march through Palestinian neighbourhoods in occupied East Jerusalem. The flag parade is part of Israel's Jerusalem Day, marking its capture of the east of the city in the 1967 war. Far-right Israeli cabinet ministers also joined in the procession, including National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Flooding in northern Italy has left at least 13 people dead. The mayor of Ravenna described it as the worst disaster to hit the region in a century. Now, the heavy rains caused hundreds of landslides and rivers to overflow, and thousands have had to leave their homes, and some areas are still underwater. Rafael Nadal has pulled out of the French Open tennis tournament next week because of a hip injury. This will be the first that he's missed since his debut almost 20 years ago, and he told journalists he thinks next year will be the last of his professional career. In one of the few sit-down interviews he's given at the Cannes Film Festival, Johnny Depp has been talking to the BBC about his return to cinema after a 3-year gap. Now, the Hollywood star was sidelined by the film industry and dropped from a major film franchise after high-profile legal battles with his ex-wife Amber Heard involving abuse allegations. From Cannes, Tom Brooke reports. From Harry, we turn to his late grandmother, the Queen Elizabeth II, and her funeral was, of course, a global event. And we've learned today that those don't come cheap. In fact, a tally by the British Treasury says that the government paid an estimated £162 million for events surrounding the national mourning. That's about $200 million. The costs relate to the Queen's funeral and other events in the run-up, including the monarch's lying in state. Queen Elizabeth II died on the 8th of September 2022 at the age of 96. 10 days of national mourning followed. Well, I'm Helena Humphrey in Washington, DC. Thanks for watching World News America. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Hello there.